Hey class, and welcome to our third video lecture on persuasive messages. In our first video lecture on persuasive messages, we talked about those four essential elements of all persuasive messages, how they should begin by identifying the reader's problem or need, how they should then propose a solution to that problem or need, how they should next support that proposed solution with reasoned evidence, and finally, how they should close out with a call to action and goodwill. Then in our second video lecture, we looked at some different options and approaches you can take to persuasive messages, how you can take a direct versus indirect approach to persuasive messages, how you can use different kinds of persuasive appeals, how you can anticipate and rebut potential objections, and how you can write persuasive messages of varying lengths. So now, in this video lecture, we're actually going to look at some examples of different kinds of persuasive messages, including a short persuasive message and a longer persuasive message. So let's start out by looking at a short persuasive message. And remember, if you're writing a short persuasive message, you really want to focus on just those four essential elements. You can sprinkle in a few other things here and there, but you really do want to focus the bulk of your time and attention and message on those four essential elements. So let's look at a sample message that does just that. So here it is. Subject: please consider Warrington student for Geostate internship. Dear Tabitha, when we last spoke in August, you mentioned having difficulty finding interns with backgrounds in both real estate and GIS. Since then, I've kept my eyes open for Warrington students with skill sets in both areas. This semester, I taught a talented master's student named Paula Gonzalez who would be a great candidate for the position. You should contact Paula and encourage her to apply for the Geostate internship. Her email is pgonzalez@ufl.edu. Her qualifications for the position include a successful background in Gainesville real estate sales, 2 years of work experiences with Collier Properties, certifications in QGIS, ArcGIS, and Geodata, and finally proficiency in Python, R, and SPSS. Thanks for considering Ms. Gonzalez. Best of luck with the Southwest 34th Street project. Best, Rachel. Now, as we were reading that sample message, you were probably identifying some of the essential elements as we went through it. But in case you missed any or all of them, let's look at those essential elements step by step, beginning with the need statement. So, in the green text at the top of the page, we have our need statement. We identify a problem or need that our reader is facing. In this case, Tabitha's difficulty finding interns with backgrounds in both real estate and GIS. We then provide a bit of context. And in the blue text, we actually have the proposal. We have the solution to Tabitha's problem or need. Hey, you're having difficulty finding interns with backgrounds in these areas? Guess what? We found somebody with precisely that skill set. We then go on to the evidence, the logical reasoned argument, which appears in red, where we lay out why we believe that Paula would be such a good candidate for this role. And then we have the call to action, which is, sort of it's one part goodwill, one part call to action here. Thanks for considering Ms. Gonzalez. Like, yes, please reach out to Paula and consider her for this role. And then we have a more conventional goodwill statement. Best of luck with the Southwest 34th Street project. Just wishing our reader some specific, tailored goodwill, because when our readers like us, they're more likely to be persuaded by our messages. And it's really that simple, right? Persuasive messages don't have to be this big, huge, intimidating thing. They can be short messages, they can be relatively routine, and still incorporate all of those four essential elements that we've talked about elsewhere in our video lectures. Now let's look at an example of a longer persuasive message. And as you might recall, longer persuasive messages, in addition to including those four essential elements that we've now discussed many times, will also typically include cohesion elements, right? So paragraph heads, bold section heads, mapping statements, both opening and closing, etc., etc. and that's to provide structure and a framework for our larger, more complex documents. So let's take a look at this lengthier message. And because this message is lengthy, I'm not going to read the entire thing aloud. Instead, I'd encourage you all to just pause the video here and read that message on your own. Okay, hopefully you've now had a chance to read that message in full. I'm sure as you were going through it, you were spotting those different elements, but still, let's walk through this message piece by piece and think about where the writer has located the different elements, both those essential elements and those elements of cohesion. So first, in green, we've got the need statement. Hey, you started this coffee shop because you wanted to create a comfortable place for your customers and for your employees, and now your dress code is getting in the way of that mission, right? That's a pretty solid need statement identifying a problem or need that the reader is facing. And because this message is likely unsolicited, we are likely taking an indirect approach here, and so we have a lengthier need statement than what we found certainly in our short persuasive message. Then in blue, we have our actual proposal or solution. Look, if the dress code is getting in the way of the mission, let's ditch the dress code and loosen it up. Let's have a dress code that aligns with the coffee shop's mission and goals. Then in red, we've got a whole mess of evidence to support that proposal to loosen the coffee shop's dress code. In gold, we have the call to action, which in this case, as with our short persuasive message, is to implement the proposal or solution in full, though as you will recall, your call to action can suggest a much more modest action on the part of the reader. And then finally, in pink, we have the goodwill statement, right? One more time, because if your reader likes you, they are more likely to be persuaded by your idea or proposal. But as you were reading, you probably noted other elements in this message, most notably elements of cohesion. So there, in that third paragraph, the underlined text, we've got a mapping statement, which is previewing the structure and main supporting points of the document. In the bold and underlined text, we've got those bold section headers, which is signaling to our reader just at a glance where they can find important pieces of information. Then in the bold, underlined, and red text in those body paragraphs, we've got the paragraph heads, which not only summarize the purpose of these body paragraphs, but connect those paragraphs back to the overall purpose of the message. And then finally, in that next to last paragraph, we've got a concluding mapping statement, which once more reiterates, sums up the structure and main supporting points of this document, right? And note how we're using those cohesion elements to make this lengthier, more sprawling message feel more manageable and more structured. If we didn't have these elements here, this message would just be really hard to follow. But the elements of cohesion help make it manageable for our readers. And that brings us to the end of this video lecture. For your future reference, that short persuasive message is probably going to be a better model for the kinds of persuasive messages that you will write on a regular basis. Since most of our messages in a business or workplace setting tend to be pretty short to begin with, of course, our persuasive messages will be short as well. But for your persuasive message assignment in this class, that longer persuasive message is going to be a better model. And that's because we use the persuasive message assignment in this class as an opportunity to assess your mastery not only of those essential elements of persuasive messages, but also those cohesion techniques. So again, the shorter persuasive message will be a more applicable model for your real-world writing challenges, but you're probably going to use the longer persuasive message as a model, not only for the handful of lengthier persuasive messages you'll write in your careers, but also for the persuasive message assignment in this class. In the meantime, thanks for sticking with me through these 3 video lectures on persuasive messages, and thanks for watching.